Hey everyone, welcome to my channel or welcome back. So my name is Katie. If you're new, thanks for stopping by. So this is my August Pan This Eyeshadows update, and I actually have 2 rollouts this month. I think it's been quite a while since I've said that. Possibly, I want to say since like February-ish. So I'm going to be getting a little bit of a color story refresh, which is always exciting. Before I get into all of that though, I did get a new phone, and so I'm recording on that. You guys are going to have to let me know if the audio or video is any better quality or worse. I'm still trying to kind of figure it out. I can't really fully see myself down here. QuickTime doesn't really want to rotate into landscape mode, so I'm kind of having to look at myself like this if I want to see anything. So I think I'm more or less centered, but yeah, if there's any weirdness like that, I'm kind of just settling into it and figuring things out. But I did want to sit down and film this update so I can hopefully get it up sort of on time. So as a refresher, this is the color story that I've been working on as of the last month. So this is Cyprus Umber from Modern Renaissance, Sleepwalk from Melt Shoes and Parties, Bloodline by Clionadh Cosmetics, Little Frog from Colourpop the Child, and Boli from the ABH Carli Bybel palette. I really enjoyed this color story this month. It's got everything I want. It's got a nice mix of light and dark colors, a couple of medium tones, some neutrals, a couple of pops. I do consider Little Frog to be neutral adjacent because my undertones are olive, and I find that colors like that, murky greens, tend to look a little bit more neutral on me than they do on other people, so I consider that neutral-ish. So I've had a lot of fun. I also touched on this in my Pan That palette update as well, that I did dye my hair, and it's pretty much completely faded. I think you might be able to see like a couple of pieces out here where it is a little bit pink, but it was aggressively hot pink for about a week and a half, and so having some pinks and purples ready to go from this color story was fantastic because I really had to adjust how I was approaching my makeup when my hair was kind of the star of the show to make sure that everything wasn't, you know, too much. So this was very helpful and very fun to work with, Bloodline especially. Let's get straight on into the progress. So despite the fact that I have 2 rollouts, I do have one kind of fail this month. I really try to use things at least a handful of times. I said I was going to try to do this with Sleepwalk as of the last update, and then it just kind of didn't happen. I used Sleepwalk from Melt Shoes and Parties palette once today on the outer corners of my lids and on the lower lash line. I don't know what happened. I think part of it is just, as much as I love this palette and I dug it out today and I'm wearing it and loving the eye look as usual, this is just not, to me, a summer palette. It's been very hot, it's been very humid. I've been going a little bit more neutral. I've been going a little bit lighter with my makeup. I also proceeded to go to a music festival a couple of weeks ago and just completely destroy my sleep schedule. So while I've been trying to sort of get back on track with that, I've been sleeping in a little bit later and having less time to get ready in the mornings. So I've been wearing a lot more 1 or 2 eyeshadow looks, and generally a shade like Sleepwalk, at least for my day-to-day 9-to-5 work life, is not something that I would wear on its own to work. It would usually be something that I would use to add a little bit of extra depth, and if I have 10 minutes to get ready, I usually will just skip that extra step and get out the door. So this one has been a little bit neglected this month. I'm still kind of deciding if I want to veto the shade for right now because I am struggling with it a little bit, at least for this time of year. As soon as it cools down, I will definitely be reaching for this one more, but it just has not been, yeah, like, I don't know, does this scream summer to anybody else? Because not really to me, as much as I adore this palette. When it gets time to roll in my new shades, I will decide if I want to veto this one or not. I've already done that a couple times, so I'm a little hesitant to do it again, but we'll see. I really don't see any significant use. I've used it once, 11 uses total. I'm just over halfway to my usage goal. Hopefully as I get settled back into a routine, I will pick up the usage on this a little bit, but yeah, I'm a little disappointed with this one. My next 2 are a tie for 5 uses each. So I'm going to start off with Cyprus Umber from Modern Ren because I do not have pan on this one, although I feel like I'm very close. So I rolled this one in last month. Like I said, I've used it 5 times, and this did have a little bit of a dip on it. I do frequently reach for this one as a liner or to add a little bit of depth on the outer third of my lid or in my crease. I hadn't used this one a ton, but it did have like a little bit of a dip when I rolled it in, and I now have a much more significant dip. I would not at all be surprised at the rate I'm going with this one and the way I've been using it if I manage to hit pan on this one by the next update. I have been using this either as a liner or to top off some of the melt gel liners. I found for me, in order to get the smoothest liner possible, I usually tend to use a powder shadow just to top over a cream or liquid liner. I do have pretty textured lids, so that's what I've been doing pretty frequently with Cyprus Umber. It doesn't look like a whole lot, but I'll see if I can get in the B-roll like the angles, because this one definitely has much more of a dip on it than I thought it did because I've been using it as a liner. So I would not at all be surprised if I can hit pan on this one and get this one rolled out by the next month. This is a fairly easy staple neutral shade to have in. It's a little bit too dark to work in my brows, but it does work really well as a liner or for adding depth when I do have days where I decide to do that, or more accurately have time to do that. So yeah, this one's going to be staying in. Okay, so next up with 5 uses, I have Bloodline. I ran really hard on Bloodline early in the month when I had just dyed my hair, was working with having hot pink hair, and just like trying to figure out that sort of situation. So Bloodline was a really easy shade to incorporate because it was pink, it matched my hair fairly well, and it had a little bit of sparkle and a little bit of something extra, and it was very easy to use even if I didn't have a lot of time. So I used this one 5 times. I did have a dip on this one as of the last update, and now I have even more of a dip. I was kind of thinking that I might be able to hit pan on this one this month. It didn't happen. I'm not entirely surprised by that, but I'm thinking by next month it'll probably happen because I feel like I'm getting pretty close. Looking at this, it looks like the dip is getting pretty significant. I'm really happy with this one. I have sort of backed off on this one a little bit in the last couple of weeks just to be able to diversify and reach for other things, because I was using this probably like every 3rd day when my hair was at its brightest. So I did want to just like back off it a little bit, but I feel like I'll probably be getting back into it over the next couple of days because I am planning on refreshing my hair. I was really going for more of a rose gold, and you know, some mistakes were made. I think this will be getting more use when I re-dye my hair, so I'm thinking that I will probably have pan on this one by the next month and be able to roll it out. So that's kind of the hope. So next up we have the shade Little Frog from the Colourpop The Child palette. This one had a pretty decent dip forming as of the last update, and now I've managed to expand that into more of a crater, so I'm really happy with how this one is looking. I am so close to hitting pan, but I'm not quite there yet. I was hoping that it might happen, but I wasn't super surprised when it didn't. I know after the experience of hitting Iffy, which happened last month, the Colourpop pans are a lot deeper than I initially thought, so I was going to be pleasantly surprised if it happened, but I wasn't really expecting it. So I imagine probably 5-ish more uses and I'll probably hit pan on this one, but for right now I am going to roll this one out. So I'm really happy with the usage on this one, as well as the fact that I've just gotten a lot more comfortable with this palette. Overall, I will say the Colourpop formula is not my favorite. I don't think it's bad, it's just not necessarily super suited to my preferences, and I do have other green palettes that I like more, but I think through having this palette in this project, I've gotten a lot more comfortable with it. I've gotten to know it better, and I feel like this is definitely a palette that I'll continue to reach for a lot more often, just because I know it better than I did when I rolled it in. I've also been using this pretty frequently with the shade Industrial, which is one of the few remaining shades left in my Pan That palette. Little Frog is a little bit more green than Industrial, which is more of like a silvery green. I find that if I layer Little Frog over Babyface, it kind of cools it down and I get a really nice monochromatic eye look, which you guys know I love. So I have been really enjoying using this one, and I'm really glad it rolled into this project, but I am going to be rolling it out, and I'm sure when I hit pan on this one over the next little while, I will be back showing it as a bonus pan. And last but not least, we have my most used shade this month by a lot, and that is the shade Boli. Probably unsurprisingly, this sort of became one of my default inner corner shades. I was using this one very frequently. This one did work really nicely as an inner corner highlight, especially now that I am ostensibly a little bit tanner. This one did have a little bit of a dip on it when I rolled it into this project. It had obviously been used, and again, I was using this mostly as an inner corner highlight, occasionally on part of the lid. So I used this one 12 times. It took me 11 uses to hit pan, and I've used it 1 additional time since then. And so I've gone from having a little bit of a dip to a small but definitely there sort of pan. So I'm really happy with this one, and I am going to be rolling this one out. Okay, so before I get into rolling my new shades, I really quickly wanted to go over my pan percentage. I don't have any bonus pans this month, probably unsurprisingly. My pan percentage has gone up a little bit because I did hit pan on Boli, and I'm sure it'll probably go up in the next month as I hopefully hit pan on Little Frog too. But I have gone from a pan percentage of 13.3% or 24 pans out of 181 total pans of shadow up to 13.8. So I've gone from 24 pans in my collection to 25 pans, and my number of total pans in my collection is the same. It's 181. So that's an increase of 0.5 percentage, which is not super significant, but I'm really happy with that. I'm glad to see this continuing to go up a little bit because I did sort of buy a couple new palettes earlier in the spring, and obviously that tanked my pan percentage a little bit, so I have been trying to rebound that a little bit more. So I'm happy with the direction that this is going in. Obviously, one of the big things that affects this, besides hitting pans in this project when it does happen, which is not super common, at least for me, is what's going on in my Pan That palette. And I do have a couple of shades that I think I'm probably a month to 6 weeks away from finishing up, so I don't think this will change significantly between this month and the next month, but I imagine probably by October, once I finish up those 2 shades and have 1 remaining, my pan percentage might decrease a little bit, but you know, I don't take it too seriously. It's just something that I like to keep an eye on because I like numbers. Having said all that, let's get into the fun part, which is rolling my new shades. So now that I have a new phone, I can actually show you guys, and I don't do duplicate shades, so I know I have a couple of bronzes in my collection and things that might be similar-ish to what's in my Pan That palette. If I do get any of those, I will be re-rolling because there's no sense in double dipping, especially with me coming down the home stretch on my Pan That palette. I don't want to distract myself, so I have this set from 1 to 149, and we are going to roll for 2 shades. So this is 44. 7. So 7 is Skeleton Kiss from She's in Parties, and 44 is Mari from my Melt Mary Jane. So I'm going to go grab those and then I'll show you guys what everything looks like all swatched out. Okay, so having swatched everything out, this is what I'm working on for the next month. So this is Skeleton Kiss down here. It's like a sort of sheer peachy pink duochrome. It actually works well as a face highlight and I'm wearing it today as that, so I think this will be a very easy shade to incorporate both on my eyes and on my face. So I should be able to hit the 20 uses on this one fairly quickly. And then Mari down here is like a cool tone beige kind of color. I think this will be very easy to incorporate as a transition shade or for blending out edges. Like when I had Rubia in a couple of months ago, I don't think I'll have any issues getting this one rolled out fairly quickly. I don't know if I'll necessarily hit pan on it, but I think it'll at least be very easy to use. Overall thoughts, this is maybe not the most summery color story. I was hoping for a couple more warmer colors and maybe a little bit more diversity, but it is very cohesive. And I think especially because I do want to re-dye my hair a little bit more pink, maybe not necessarily as hot pink as it was before, I think this will be a very easy and cohesive color story to work with that in mind. As much as I was hoping for a little bit more warmth, I'm not mad at it at all, and I think I'll really enjoy using this. So in terms of goals, first goal I have is that I would really like to hit pan on Bloodline. I feel like I'm pretty close, so I'm hoping like another 5 to 7 more uses and I'll be able to get there. That dip is looking pretty significant to me, so I don't think it'll be too difficult to make that happen. And like I said, when I have pink hair, I know that it is definitely a shade that I gravitate towards, so I think that is very doable. And I also think that hitting pan on Cyprus Umber is not outside of the realm of possibility. I have a pretty significantly deep dip, even if it doesn't necessarily look like it, so I think probably another handful of uses on that, especially if I use it as a liner, which I mainly have been. I think that I'll probably be able to hit pan on that one and roll it out. In terms of my new roll-ins, if not pan, I think 20 uses on them is pretty realistic, and I just realized I forgot to show you guys what they actually look like as of rolling them in. So Skeleton Kiss, obviously my She's in Parties palette has been very loved. So as you guys can see, Skeleton Kiss is over here, and I do have a pretty reasonably sized dip happening in this one. It might be a little bit harder to see on camera, but there definitely is a dip. I'm not sure if I'll be able to hit pan on this one in 20 uses, but I think I can definitely get closer to that goal. And with Mari, I'm honestly not sure. Mari is this shade right over here. So this does have a little bit of a dip going on in it, but nothing super duper intense. Melt shadows have very deep pans and they're very pigmented, so shades like this I find that I really don't need a lot of. These are also not super powdery mattes. They don't really kick up a whole lot, so even though I have used this palette a ton, with the mattes it really doesn't look super obvious. I think for comparison's sake, I had Rubia over here in this project earlier this year. I used it 20 times and rolled it out, and it looks basically the same as Mari, so barely used. So I would be super surprised if I managed to hit pan on Mari in 20 uses. I think if I get even slightly more of a dip, I could call that a win. So I think focus on both Skeleton Kiss and Mari is just to use them 20 times, or at least get very close to that to be able to roll them out next month. I don't really have significant expectations of hitting pan on this guy. Skeleton Kiss, you never know, it doesn't really kick up a lot, but it is an easy shade to use a lot of, so we'll kind of see how that one goes. So yeah, as a recap, goals, I do want to use Skeleton Kiss and Mari hopefully around 20 times and get them rolled out, and then I would like to hit pan hopefully on at least Bloodline and also possibly Cyprus Umber. So I might have 4 rollouts next month. That would be super exciting. I would get like pretty much a full refresh heading into fall. So I think that is pretty much everything that I have for this video. If you guys enjoyed it and you want to see more of my face and you're not already subscribed, feel free to hit that subscribe button. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to give it a like. And as always, if you're doing this project, feel free to let me know what you're working on and how it's going down below, what you think of my color story, eye looks that I can do, all of that kind of fun stuff, and hopefully I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!